is Shay Moraga, and I'm with Shay's Warriors, Life After Cancer. Tonight, we are having an amazing conversation about sleep. And it's about 6 o'clock right now, and the sun has gone down, and I am super tired. So is it just because I'm a cancer survivor, or is it because it is nighttime, or is it because I'm fatigued? I have no idea. And so we have an amazing team tonight that is going to go through some of these questions and some of the questions that you as the audience might know. Now, Shay's Warriors Life After Cancer is a 501c3 here locally in the Coachella Valley. So if you are listening from beyond, yay, connect with us. Make sure that you post the comments in the section tonight because we're going to be going over questions later on live. Let's get to the rest of our team here. Dr. Sonia Fung, would you please take it away?
Absolutely. Thank you, Shay, for the intro. We have a few board members on tonight, and the two that will be presenting is going to be Dr. Amy Hetherington, and we have a special guest, Dr. Churukian, who is at Eisenhower Health Center. So let me do a really quick intro. Dr. Amy is a nurse practitioner at Eisenhower Health in the pre-anesthesia clinic and inpatient general surgery service, as well as a full-time faculty with the nursing program at the College of the Desert. Yeah. Dr. Churukian is the medical director at Eisenhower Health Sleep Center, and she received her medical degree from Kansas City University of Medicine and Biosciences, and completed her residency and internal medicine with a subspecialty fellowship in sleep medicine at UCLA and the VA. And we are so happy to have them both tonight to talk about sleep and the importance of that.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Hello, Dr. Churukian.
Hi, thank you
for
having
you?
me. I'm very honored
joining us. Well, I think that both Shay and Dr. Fong just mentioned here a few things in their intro to the subject. I think basically what we're all really, really interested in learning more about is why getting a good night's sleep is even more important after the cancer treatment stops and or when you're on a lifetime of maintenance. Other questions that just pop in my brain are, why is sleep so important? What is the healing component of sleep in our physical and our mental health and our body after life and cancer?
Yes, so, sleep is fundamental to our health, our mental health, emotional health, cardiovascular, our, endocrine system, metabolic. So everything ties into our sleep. And cancer survivors, unfortunately, are at increased risk for certain disorders like cardiovascular, health issues with heart attacks and strokes. And if you're not getting sufficient sleep or good quality sleep, that can increase your risk as well. We know that in the general population, if somebody is not getting good quality sleep or they are sleeping less than 7 hours a night on a regular basis, that they are at a 3 to 5-fold increased risk for heart attacks and strokes. And with having undergone cancer treatments, that increases the risk even more. So it's really important from that standpoint to, be in check with your pattern and what you're doing with your everyday schedule and your sleep.
Okay. Elizabeth, do you have any more specific concerns, questions from the survivor perspective, or Shay even?
Hello? From my perspective, I think the difficulties I don't get rest at all. I sleep very incrementally. So I'll sleep for like 2 hours and then I wake up, go back to sleep, maybe sleep another 2 hours. And then after that, I'll wake up again and I'm completely like wide awake. So I don't ever feel fully rested. And then throughout the day, I just feel like I'm dragging. So that really affects my ability to focus and have a really clear day. I try not to nap so that it doesn't affect my sleep in the evenings, but sometimes I have to because I'm just so exhausted. So I don't know if those naps are affecting that nighttime sleep when I do it, because I just feel so worn down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of what you described are some good clues that obviously you are struggling with your sleep and it is affecting you. And essentially what you described, I would say is important to bring up to your doctor, because those are some symptoms there that need to be further evaluated. Obviously you should be able to sleep through the night with some minimal awakenings, because obviously as we get older, sometimes our bladder issues may wake us up, some aches and pains and whatnot, but you should be able to mostly sleep through the night. So if you are waking up, then that's something to look into further. But definitely, yes, napping can disrupt your nocturnal sleep. So you can think of sleep similar to other physiologic functions like thirst and hunger. So the more you go without drinking water, you get thirsty. The more you go without eating, the longer you go between meals, you get hungry. And so you're basically building up that drive. And so for sleep, it's similar. So you need to build up that sleep drive. And so if you take a nap, you basically kind of cut that desire for sleep. And even though you may then still be sleepy in the evening, though you may find that you're not able to sleep as long duration because you actually used up some of that desire for sleep during the day. So it's not going to carry you through the whole night. So when you are struggling with insomnia, it's important to remember to, like my main tips that I give my patients are, number one, you shouldn't get into bed unless you're sleepy and ready to go to sleep. And if you feel that, but then you get into bed and you can't fall asleep, or let's say you do doze off and then you wake up shortly after and then, have trouble going back to sleep, essentially you don't want to lie in bed awake. So make sure that if after 20 minutes or as soon as you kind of get that sense about you that you can't get back to sleep, then you should get out of bed. And do something relaxing that helps to distract your mind that you can't sleep. Because a lot of times people get anxious and you kind of get into that vicious cycle where now the fact that you're not sleeping, you get frustrated. And then, you're thinking of all the things you got to do the next day and you got to perform at work or whatever, household duties and things and responsibilities that you have. And then you think, okay, well, I'm not getting enough sleep, then I'm not going to do well. So yeah. So you want to do something that distracts that thought process, but make sure that you don't get too involved that you don't want to go to sleep. So sometimes reading a book, doing a crossword puzzle, maybe organizing a drawer in your kitchen or something. And then when you feel sleepy, put yourself back into bed. And then make sure that you wake up at the same time every morning, regardless of how bad your sleep may have been that night. And yes, you will feel, crappy the next day, but that sleep debt and that sleepiness that you have should help you for the following night. And then try to make sure, yes, that you don't nap during the day. If you must take a nap, try to limit it to 20 minutes and before 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. So, obviously if you have to get in the car and drive, we don't want you driving drowsy or, depending on what your responsibilities are and you need to be alert, then yes, sometimes you might need to take a little cat nap. But those are some of the tips that I give to my patients, and sometimes employing some of those tactics can make a really big improvement in your sleep at night. And Another good tip is also making sure that you're getting bright light exposure early in the day. So after you get up, if you're able to go outside and get bright light exposure, don't wear sunglasses or a hat, but do, protect your skin from the sun. That bright light early in the day helps to support your circadian rhythm and helps with your desire for feeling sleepy in the evening. And then also being mindful of your exposure to, bright electronics in the evening time, because that can interfere with your melatonin expression and can cause a delay in your feeling drowsy in the evening.
That's really interesting that you bring up the blue light. I think that you had mentioned a few things to kind of distract if you're not really feeling tired. Good examples, organizing a drawer in the kitchen or something. I really like that one. I'm trying to think of myself doing that actually, but I think it's very tempting for everyone to just kind of grab a device, and I think maybe some of the book reading or removing ourselves from one space and going into another space. We might just keep our electronics in our room where we sleep, and it's very tempting to grab that and just dive back into emails, prior text message trails, and kind of keep feeding that. What would you suggest for anyone, and survivors, of course, of cancer, to not fall into that rabbit hole of grabbing your devices?
Yeah, it's a hard habit to break. I think we are all susceptible to it, definitely. So yeah, you just have to really make a conscious effort. Some people, they just have a rule. They don't have their phone in their room. They leave it out in the kitchen or in their office or somewhere else. But yeah, it's really trying to make that connection of a wind down period to help you get drowsy and to tell your brain that you are getting ready for bed and it's time to go to sleep. So, some people have their bathroom routine, whatever it may be. But sometimes, those electronic devices are not always bad. If you're using it to maybe listen to an audiobook or you're journaling on it, things of that sort, it's not the end of the world, but just be mindful that you're not getting caught into, watching the YouTube shorts and, going down that rabbit hole, or that also if it is emitting bright light, that you are dimming the screen and doing those sort of things. But you really have to be in tune to knowing what your behaviors are, and being honest with yourself as to whether or not, you need to just completely remove that electronic device, or if it does have certain features on it that actually might be helpful, then that's okay too. So you just, it's a balancing act, definitely. But sometimes just getting back to reading a good old book with paper, can be a good thing.
Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, some things that are very more specific, I think, maybe for cancer. Shay, you had a comment?
Yeah, I have a question. How do you know when, and this could be maybe hypothetically for everyone, but as a cancer survivor, how do you know when you actually have a sleeping disorder?
So one of the biggest is,
I'm sorry. Are there any signs or anything that you would gauge that says, yeah, maybe it's time for you to go, get that? Because for me, it's just a normal routine for me not to sleep so much anymore. And I'm not sure, because I've always been one of those people that don't need a lot of sleep. But maybe there's a rule of thumb on that.
So in response to the very last comment, and then I'll go to kind of the first part. So we in our society here, particularly, I think that we are all very, driven. We have lots of responsibilities, and we tend to sacrifice our sleep. And most people go by the mantra of what they need to get by. And that's not necessarily what is healthy and what your body needs. But because a lot of people, can get through the day with 5 or 6 hours of sleep, even though it's technically really not optimal for them. But, they have a couple cups of coffee, gets them through the day. They do all of their things. And so they feel that it's okay. but that's actually not a healthy approach. And you really should make sure that on a daily basis, not just catching up on the weekends, but that you are getting the amount of sleep that your body needs. And so you have to really pay attention. Are you a 7-hour sleeper, 7.5 hour, 8 hour? You know, some people are 9 hours, because that does put you at increased risk for a lot of health issues, some of which I've already described in terms of cardiovascular health issues, mental health issues, cognitive issues. So yeah. But in terms of signs, the biggest one is, again, and if you are conscientious about making sure you are getting enough sleep, if despite getting enough sleep and feeling like you are sleeping well through the night, but yet you don't feel rested, that's one of the biggest. And in particular, that you are weeding out the difference between just kind of feeling fatigued, maybe because of, other underlying health issues, particularly if you're, going through chemo, radiation, or even shortly after, your body is still repairing itself. And so that's, very taxing. But if otherwise kind of looking at it as there couldn't be anything else to explain why you might not feel rested, then yeah, that could be a sign that there could be something going on with your sleep. And obviously, if you have some sort of intuition yourself, sometimes people may wake themselves up from like snoring or kind of gasping or snorting, or if they have the luxury of somebody who sleeps next to them to kind of key in on maybe what they might be doing in their sleep, that can always, be really helpful.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know, did that fully answer your question? If you
yes, thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you.
Something that I've heard, and then I was reading through comments through some of our cancer survivors that is very much disruptive to sleep are related to body temperature and the ability to control our temperature, our internal thermostat. And there definitely is an aspect of hormones that has to do with this. Are there any suggestions for someone? I think Elizabeth, you'd mentioned something like that it can get very difficult with night sweats and things, with certain medications like tamoxifen and that cancer survivors may be taking long term. Would you have any insight to that, or any way that maybe someone would be able to better manage those untoward symptoms and continue on their therapy and still get restorative sleep?
Yeah, that's definitely a challenging one, in particular if somebody's on an estrogen blocker and you're basically, causing menopause type symptoms with the hot flashes and whatnot. So whether or not there's medications that are considered appropriate for you to take to try to counteract that response. But otherwise, in terms of getting good sleep, it is important to be in a cool room so that your body can give off heat, because you need to actually drop your core body temperature to get into deep sleep and to help maintain sleep. And if the room is too warm, it definitely can cause fragmented sleep. So I would say it's important to turn the temperature down as best you can. But if you need to also maybe consider like a cooling blanket or a cooling mat that you can sleep on, I would think that might be helpful. But yeah, that is pretty difficult to deal with. And I think it's something that people, undergoing cancer treatments definitely, with the long-term maintenance therapy, that it's definitely an ongoing challenge.
Yeah. Jeannie, I can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes. Yay. Yes. Gotcha.
So going off of what she's already advocated, again, if you're not getting sleep for whatever reason, like your hot flashes, secondary to the medication-induced menopause, or like you're waking up, Elizabeth, definitely want to talk to your physician. There's some non-hormonal treatments, a brand new one that just came out called Veoza. And with Veoza, they give you this little welcome to menopause packet, and it's all about staying cool. And so they have these awesome eye coverings, but they have a cooling part in here. And then obviously if, economics can play a role in what she was talking about, one of those cooling mats, those are amazing. You can regulate your temperature and set the cooling mat at a certain degree, but also make it warm up at a certain time so you wake up the same time every day. And it takes our brains 21 days to create a habit, and it only takes 3 days to break it. So if you're having problems with your sleeping, and you get some advice from, whether you take it from here or you are following up with your primary care physician or specialist, and they want you to change your routine, be patient, because it's going to take your brain right now, like for example with Elizabeth, even if you don't really necessarily have something that's waking you up, your brain thinks it's supposed to wake up after 2 hours now, because that's what you've been doing. So your brain thinks it's supposed to, because it's become a routine for you. And it's going to take some time to break that routine. But also I agree that it's probably time, with the way that your sleeping pattern is, to let your primary know and see what suggestions they might have.
I have a question too. So Dr. Churukian, you mentioned the need to lower body temperature. Jeannie also with the different things that we could utilize tool-wise. For our cancer survivor support system, what would be a gentle way of, I've heard of these terms like sleep divorce, or, just maybe giving space to the other person that maybe you cohabitate with, and explaining to them the importance of your need for sleep. Do you have any suggestions of how, so we're not having this fight over a thermostat throughout an evening, or is there a way that we can advocate for our better sleep with our counterparts so they can be more supportive to us? What do we tell them as an argument?
Yeah, that one, I always remember, and even still to this day, my parents too, like at a certain point, yes, definitely that sleep divorce, one's hot, one's cold. And, at one point in their, togetherness, it was one was hot, one was cold, and then it switches, at a certain point in life. So, I think it's just being able to communicate with your partner, and obviously hoping that they will be open-minded and hearing what you're trying to express to them. But yeah, definitely coming up with solutions, whether or not maybe they add an extra blanket so that you can turn the thermostat down, or that the cooling blankets that's just on their side, or the mat. So then the bed partner can then keep the room temperature to their liking. But sleep divorce is not horrible either. There are a lot of people that do that, and they may come together at certain moments. But at the same time, have that separation where then they're not disrupting each other. And when you're sleeping better, you feel better. And so then you're in a better mood and you have more fun with your partner. And so then that helps to, keep that bond there. And, so, I don't know that I have any, real specific, things, what to say, but I think it's just kind of pointing out to your partner that, letting them know that you're struggling and that you're having this difficult time, and that body temperature regulation is really important in helping to improve your sleep, and that, you guys might need to try to come to a compromise with that.
Yeah, good sleep is going to keep us healthier too. And, all the different risk factors that a survivor would have.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely something that it needs to be better supported, I think, overall. Mm-hmm. Better sleep is fundamental to our wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Very good.
Yeah.
Can I ask it, Sonia, maybe this would be a good question for you. What like on the natural side, like lavender or chamomile teas and sleepy time, like can help get our brains ready for sleep? We can't hear you.
Let me unmute. Okay, I have unmuted. Yay. Yeah, we do on I mean, sleep hygiene is going to be such a big thing, and the routine of it. And part of that routine can be utilizing things like different types of nervines or the herbs that help to calm our nervous system so that it preps us to get to sleep. There are so many out there, but common ones are like lavender, chamomile, lemon balm, valerian, passion flower. There's a lot of different types that you can utilize, even like catnip, not just for cats. So, yep. And I can put
Never
like
thought of
I have right. So catnip is part of the mint family,
Uh-huh.
and so it is a herb that really helps to kind of chill a person out, not just cats.
So I found this on Amazon. Let's see. It's blurring out. Oh, darn. Okay. Maybe right there. Okay. So it's called a boomstick. And these are nasal sticks that come like, menthol and stuff like the old, Vicks, not a spray. And it comes in a set of 4, and there's winter and tropical, but this one is lavender. And let me tell you,
Does that work for you?
And I feel like I'm sleeping in a lavender bed. Like every time I take it, I'm still smelling it. And it's been amazing. And again, for our cancer survivors, I know that we're looking for, we're tired of medicine. I know you guys are tired of medicine. You're tired of chemo. You're tired of being told what to do. You're tired of being tired. You want to get some sleep and you want to do things that are more natural for your body. And, there's definitely going to be a time where we have to seek out medical care if there's an underlying problem that might have even existed before cancer. But I really advocate doing stuff as naturally, as possible, especially after cancer, so that you can, take personal ownership of that and get your sleep.
Yeah.
I will say this. Some of the best sleep that I ever had was when I was doing 5 hours of chemo. So sleep, I know, and it's not a joke, but when we sleep, our body is naturally in healing stages. Is that correct, doctor?
Yep. Right.
So,
Yes.
I mean, it is really important just to heal the body in itself, whether you're going through cancer or especially in life after, or for anyone for that matter. But sleeping really helps heal the immune system. It helps heal our bones, our everything in there, because when we are in that sleep state, everything is supposed to be shut down. And isn't there 3 different levels of sleep state? If I'm not mistaken, there's different levels.
Right. So sleep is really broken up actually into what we call REM and non-REM sleep. And within the non-REM sleep, there are 3 levels: this stage 1, stage 2, stage 3.
And I asked that because we have a question on that. How important is REM sleep stage in overall sleeping?
So it is very important to our overall sleep. We should be getting roughly around like 16 to 20% REM sleep a night. Unfortunately, as we age, the natural change in the brain is that sometimes there might be somewhat of a decrease in that percentage, but REM sleep is important for memory consolidation. And if you're not getting sufficient REM, you might notice, which already with chemo brain, then you add other, brain fog effects on top of that. So,
if you're not getting sleep as a survivor, let's say active treatment is done now, or even if you are in active treatment, and when you don't sleep, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I know for me, speaking personally from going through cancer, the less that I sleep, the more brain fog I would have, the more forgetful I would be. I mean, that could be anyone, but really more fatigued that I would become and a little bit more depressed. Or in my case, it was more a little like, I'd be like, like not angry, but I would just So
yeah.
That probably, do you hear about that in survivorship or in those going through the process of cancer?
Well, I think that what you say speaks to anyone, regardless. If you're not getting sufficient sleep, it really impacts your mood, and you are irritable. You can't multitask as well. You have brain fog. It impacts your cognition and your mood. And yes, if you're undergoing cancer treatments, if you have any kind of chronic medical issue, inflammatory disorder, not getting enough sleep impacts it even more.
How reliable do you think? I know that we love, our real sleep studies and the science, but some of these Apple Watches, if you sleep with it, it can tell you how much REM sleep you were in. Do people come to you and tell you that, and then you do an actual sleep study? Are they comparative? Is that somewhat reliable?
So the activity trackers nowadays, the technology is pretty good. And what I tell people is to maybe not get so hyper-focused on a night to night, but kind of look at the overview of a month or a few months, because there's that ebb and flow, and maybe the thing may not always be as accurate every night in terms of recording that data. So, but it does give you a general sense. But based on that data, it doesn't necessarily trigger the need for a sleep study. Usually when we're doing sleep studies, it's because we're trying to look for sleep disordered breathing or movement disorder and things of that sort. Unless if the device is also monitoring oxygen and it's showing that, they're having these intermittent drops in their oxygen during the night.
And those type of devices don't have the blue light in there at all?
You're asking if they have the blue light in them, like on the commercial trackers, like your smartwatch and whatnot. I'm not familiar, actually. I don't have one myself.
Well, you're not looking at it. So the blue light is just if you turn on something, it's going to shut down your melatonin production. So it's not in the watch itself.
But it also the energy flows throughout in the room as well. So
yeah, no, it's if you're actually looking at it and it's going into the back of your retina, and in particular if it's like in close range, so like your phone and tablets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's where
Wi-Fi systems, stuff like that has any energy that's radiating off of it. How does that affect us as well?
I don't think there's any negative effect from that standpoint. The main thing is if like in your room you have other electronics, because a lot of times people have televisions and they have their cable box and and we just have so many electronic devices around us all the time. So a lot of them have little blue lights, and so that can be just disruptive in that it's emitting a lot of light into your room. So it's better to basically cover them up, or if you can, hopefully if those devices have red lights instead of blue. But I mean there is. Some people are very conscientious or feel effects of that constant electric field that's around us all the time. Mm-hmm. And that is a real thing. And some people are sensitive to it in terms of chronic issues with headaches and whatnot. But for the most part, it's low enough level that it's not causing us any harm.
Wonderful. Well, this has been so helpful, so informative. I know that it's a very relevant topic for everyone and definitely for our cancer survivors. So thank you so much, Dr. Churukian, for your expertise. Thank you, Jeannie, for your expertise as well, and Elizabeth and Shay for your experiences, and Dr. Fong for your expertise. But I would like to, since Dr. Churukian is given us so much to think about today, I'd like to give you this platform, this opportunity to think about this next question. And this is to help you connect a little bit with our survivor community. If you could design a t-shirt for life after cancer, as a healthcare provider, as a sleep specialist, as a human, what would you want it to say?
I think a slogan of stronger than cancer, braver than ever.
I like it.
Yeah, that's great. I like it.
Yeah.
And maybe like a little eternity symbol next to it.
Say that one more time. I'm gonna write that
down. So, stronger than cancer, braver than ever. And then the eternity sign, which basically is a symbol of endurance, faith and just our eternal connection to the past, the present, the future. So I think it just kind of just sort of says what cancer patients are dealing with and sums up.
I love it.
I
Well,
love it.
thank you so much. Dr. Fung had also created a recipe for sleepy tea. We might be able to share that in some way with through social media or on our website. Or if you have any further questions about any of our topic of sleep hygiene and sleep and recovery from cancer, and as a cancer survivor, please feel free to reach out. We would love to get your questions, make them more specific to your needs for all of our viewers. But I want to thank you all for participating tonight in our discussion. It was really great.
Thank you. It was great to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Churukian.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Have a good night.
Night.
Have a good night's sleep, everybody.
Yes.
Yes, tea going down.
There's lavender.
What you got, Elizabeth? Anything? What are you using?